The rocket attacks continue on Kiev as Germany and the US both promise air defense systems. Are we doing Iron Dome 2.0? I guess we will have to see on our greatest ally? Second greatest ally? We'll talk just a bit about that and what's going on there. In other news, Katie Hobbs and Carrie Lake continue to go head to head with each other, trying to decide who is the most evil and who is not. And as we look at this, Katie Hobbs says she will not be part of the spectacle of debating Carrie Lake, so we'll go over some of that. Then question why two gubernatorial candidates can't argue with each other when we're expecting them to argue with corporations and other states and the federal government on our behalf. So we'll go over some of that. 30,000 non-citizens mistakenly get Colorado voter registration. And Colorado says, oh, no, we didn't mean to do that. Trust us. No, that's not something we would ever do. So we'll go over some of that and what's happening there. And Rivian has dropped in the market as it has to recall every single one of its vehicles. It is going to be all this and more. All the stops are gone. Welcome to midterm season. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Yo, our world is a mess right now. Rapture when? I start thinking about that every time we get into crap like this. We're pushing on to the point of ridiculousness, especially coming up on the midterms. And, well, honestly, I don't know how we stay together as a nation after this one. I really don't. I don't want to see the national divorce because I'm pretty positive that once everybody divorces themselves out and factions themselves off, they'll be going after the other side to go try to get resources. But we'll see what happens and where this goes. After some of the things that have been said over just the past day, I can't imagine one side being like, okay, well, we'll just give it a chance over here if we lose our power. But, honestly, it hasn't been going that way for the last couple of years, so why would it start now? But we'll see what happens. We'll see where this goes. This is Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and we have got a fair amount to go over. Now, a lot of what we have to go over today is left over from yesterday, because that's actually the bigger half of what we have up on the stack. I was able to take a few and integrate them back into the main stories of the day here, but we'll see what we get to. And we're going to get started. Before we do, make sure you guys go check out great programming such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Porch Boys. Go check out Tweets by Brit. KTZed, Tweets by Brit is one of them where I was looking at when I started to realize how much of a mess our world is in right now. She does her fun is over on Twitter. If she does bring up a show, we'll be promoting that as well at some point here, but go check her out anyway. Go check out the No Gimmicks podcast if you want some more good blue-collar news from the common man for the common man. Go check out Mr. Behavior, and go check out PJ Patriot as well. Go check out all that programming as we start to bring you news by the common man for the common man, and we will see what happens with this. Let's get into the finance. Let's get started. Let's get the live chat up so I can see what you guys are doing over here. Oh, a bunch of people out here. Yeah, I had the music up going on too, so we will see what happens with that. All right, let's get started. Starting with the Dow, which is not good news, by the way, if you have a 401k. I hate being the bearer of bad news, but if you've got a 401k, it might be time to, and this is not official financial advice, find somewhere else more growth-oriented to go put that, because it seems like this is going to get a lot worse before it gets better, but we will check it out by the numbers and by the people who can actually give you official financial advice. Looking at the Dow is down to 29,202.88 with another scheduled drop coming here. Now, overnight action in the futures doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. We could see a close up today, but it's just not that likely. So we'll continue to watch this, see what happens with this, and where we go from here. Let's bring this down here. We can see that we haven't hit a new 52-week low, but it's, a 0.5% down. We're on deck for it. Even if we drop as far as IBD says the Dow is going to drop today at the open, we're not quite going to get to the 28,715.85, but we're going to be dangerously close to setting a new 52-week low. So we'll see what happens with that. On the Bitcoin is at 19,194.50. Let's actually get a refresh on this. Oh, and it dumped back off again. 19,162.50 is where it's at right now. It's still up on the day after a major spike very recently here, but it's declining again. It is up 34.10. Let's bring this back out and see what happened today. It looks like we had a fairly significant drop throughout the day yesterday, and then an attempt to rally and climb back up again, and it looks like that's going to be stymied as well. So we will see where this goes. That's down 803.10 on the 5-day, due in large part to a significant drop over the weekend. So that's what we see coming in for Bitcoin. Gas is holding steady in the Madison area, $4 at the Exxon on the east side. Was there a 410? I thought there was a 410 when I looked at it this morning. There's not a 410 currently right now, so $4 is your high price leader. Looks like we have a 408 out going towards Store Creek and Monona, down by McFarland. We do have that 408. That's down by where I used to work, actually. Our low price looks like that's going to be 380 at the Quick Trip and the Exxon, both out on the far west side. So that is what we see, and of course, it's Madison, so your best prices are going to be on the far left. Go figure. That's a joke about Madison that most locals probably won't get, but Madison is probably one of the most progressive cities in the country. So that's what we see coming off of that. And let's see what IBD has to say for the morning. From Investors Business Daily, Dow futures fall, NASDAQ hits new bear market low. What to do now? From Scott Latonin. Dow futures fell 150 points ahead of Tuesday's open after the NASDAQ hit a new bear market low on Monday. Meanwhile, third quarter earnings season will kick off this week with results from the Dow stocks, JP Morgan, United Health, and Walgreens Boots Alliance. On the market today, on Monday, the Dow declined 0.3 and the S&P lost 0.75%. The NASDAQ sold off 1% and the small cap Russell shed 0.6. Among the ETFs, the NASDAQ 100 tracker, QQQ Trust moved down 1%, and the SPDR S&P 500 dropped 0.8. U.S. automakers Ford and GM received downgrades from UBS. Ford skidded 6.8% after being downgraded from neutral to sell. GM stock declined 4% and moved from a buy rating to a neutral. A potential serious recession on the horizon has some analysts worried about shares of major automakers. EV giant Tesla inched lower on Monday after setting a record of electric vehicle deliveries from its Shanghai factory in September. Among the Dow stocks, Apple traded up 0.2 and Microsoft slid 2.1 in today's market. Cardinal Health, ConocoPhillips, the gas company, Denbury, Vertex Pharmaceuticals, as well as Chevron and United Health are among the top stocks to watch. Well, yeah, gas prices are going up, so better go in and get in the gas companies, even though they're probably selling much at a loss. We'll see what happens with that. Keep in mind that the ongoing correction is a time for investors to sit on the sidelines and build watch lists of top growth stocks. Cardinal Health and Vertex are on the IBD leaderboard. Chevron and Conoco were featured in this week's Stocks Nearby Zone column, along with two other top stocks. Scooby-Doo, welcome to the EdHead family. I saw you yesterday, and I'm seeing you here again today, so thanks for swinging by. Hope you like what you see. On the futures, ahead of Tuesday's opening bell, Dow futures fell a half versus fair value. The S&P moved down 0.6 and the Nasdaq lost 0.6 versus fair value. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. The 10-year yield was on hold on Monday, with the bond markets closed for Columbus Day after settling at 388 on Friday. Last week, the 10-year yield dropped as low as 356 before rebounding. Meanwhile, U.S. oil prices gave up part of last week's rebound, falling around 2% on Monday. West Texas Intermediate traded below $91 a barrel, around its highest level since late August. So that's what we see coming off of the futures. It's not looking good, but hey, check with your financial advisor, see what it is that you can do. I cannot give you official financial advice. I can just report by the numbers and see what's actually going on out there. And our other finance article here comes from the great state of the Golden State of California, because they're still trying to go with the shtick of the greedy oil companies. And I will dispel that myth again, because we have some new people here. But I will dispel that myth again, as I consistently do over and over again, as to what's actually happening with the gas prices. But from KTLA5, oil company fires back at Governor Gavin Newsom over gas prices accusation. From Iman Palm. Valero Energy has released a statement responding to Governor Newsom's accusations that oil companies are fleecing California drivers with disproportionately rising gas prices that cannot be explained. Oh, they can be explained. The average price in California was $6.30 a gallon as of October 10th, while the national average was $3.19. Wow, the national average is that far below Wisconsin? Where are we getting that kind of low price? Because typically, Wisconsin has been below the national average in this painful cycle. Experts have blamed the discrepancy on oil refinery maintenance and the state's limited gas supply. However, the governor proposed a different answer. You know why? Because he has to go and vote by. The fact is, we gotta do Gavin voice. The fact is, brah, they're ripping you off. The record profits are coming at your expense, Newsom said on a Twitter video posted on September 30th. My Newsom sounds an awful lot like my Beto. And my Swalwell, actually. David Hochschild, California Energy Commission chairman, sent a letter to oil refinery executives seeking to answer California's dramatic gas price increase. Do we have the Twitter video? Yes, we do. We have not listened to this one yet. So let's take a minute and 11 seconds and listen to what the surfer boy had to say.
Gas prices in California have increased by a record 84 cents per gallon in just over 1 week. That's a $2.50 difference compared to U.S. prices. It just doesn't add up. The degree of divergence from the national prices has never happened before. And oil companies, they provide no explanation. The fact is, they're ripping you off. Their record profits are coming at your expense. And that's why today I'm calling for a windfall tax to ensure these profits go directly back to help millions of Californians who are paying for this oil company extortion. In addition, earlier today, I directed the Air Resources Board to make an early transition to our winter blend gasoline. This should immediately increase supply and result in savings of up to 25 cents per gallon within the next 2 weeks. And starting next week, millions of Californian families will receive up to $1,050 in tax refunds to help offset rising costs. We're not going to stand by while greedy oil companies fleece Californians.
All right, I'm going to dispel this again and remind everybody. The gas company, and by the way, the gas station as well, they make their money off volume. See, companies like Valero, that Newsom sent the letter to, that sent the letter back, this is the great myth that all they do is they're just raising the prices because of need and because they need to go and make greedy profits. No, they need to keep themselves above board right now. With the cost per barrel increasing and the cost per barrel set to increase even more because OPEC is cutting more and more supply out of this. And that is partially because they are allied with Russia. There is a Russian aspect to our gas prices. It's not the Putin price hike, but it is the fact that our energy policy goes to depend on these countries that are allied with that nation that is currently in a propaganda war with us. Instead of coming out here and saying, hey, we've got a massive oil field under Mexico, another one under Alaska. Let's just go and find more oil under our country. But we're not going to talk about the energy policy on this. We're going to talk about the gas company because Valero, or Quick Trip, or Shell, or Chevron, or Mobil, or Phillips Conoco, all of these companies make their money on volume. They want to see gas that they can sell at 91 cents a gallon. Do you know why? Because you go out and buy the biggest SUV that you can afford, or the biggest truck or the heaviest vehicle, because it's bigger and it's more comfortable, and you can show it off as a status symbol to your friends. And then you go into the pump and you stick the nozzle in and you squeeze it and you walk away from it and go wash your windows or something. You don't think about what you put into there. You just walk over there, and on top of that, you go off and you go explore. You go do your road trip. You pack a bunch of friends in there and have your epic summer montage. Excuse me. Going in and checking out places that you've never seen. You know how I know this? That's what I did. When gas was 91 cents a gallon, I got in my truck and I picked up Stephen and Ignoramus and we went to Orlando. When I went to Atlanta these last 2 times, I had to think about it both times because gas was 3 times what it was at the time. And I almost didn't go on both of those trips because gas was 3 times what it was at the time. When you don't think about how much gas you put in, the gas companies make money. The same thing with the gas station. The gas station's not gouging you because they make nothing on gasoline. But the more you go to the gas station to fill up, the more you look in, and the more money you have left over after you fill up, the more you walk into the store and grab the beef jerky, or the soda, or the energy drink, or the bag of chips, or the hot dog off the rotisserie. Because you got a bunch of money left over after you went and filled up your tank. And those are the things that they do have a profit margin on. Valero Energy Corp fired back with a statement last week. As the Commission knows, and as countless investigations have demonstrated, market drivers of supply and demand, together with government-imposed costs and specifications, determine the market price, Valero said. The Vice President for State Government Affairs at Valero Energy Corporation, Scott Falwarkow, blamed the state's rigorous environmental regulations and high refinery operating costs on why prices at the pump are so disproportionately. I'm guessing that's supposed to be so disproportionately high. I'm guessing we missed a word somewhere. California policies have made it difficult to increase refining capacity and have prevented supply projects to lower operating costs of the refineries, Valero's letter said. Newsom has called for the state's legislature to impose a windfall tax on oil companies' profits that would go back to California taxpayers. However, Valero doesn't believe a new tax is the best course of action. Adding further costs in the form of new taxes on regulatory constraints will further strain the fuel market and adversely impact refiners. Ultimately, these costs will pass to California consumers, Valero's response said. And on top of this, to help offset gas prices and inflation, California began sending out tax refund checks worth up to $1,050 to eligible residents. And that is coming out of your inflation, just so you know. So that's what's happening in California, and that's the myth that they continue to try to push to you and say, hey, yeah, the gas prices are too high. It's the greedy billionaire oil companies. So that's what we see coming off of that. All right, let's move into our main news of the day. Actually, we're going to do a little bit more finance, but in relation to what we talked about yesterday. From MarketWatch, delete PayPal searches spike after $2,500 misinformation fine controversy. From Nicole Lynn Pesque and Emily Berry. And as we said yesterday, there was no misinformation about this. That was actually in the terms of service. And the only reason they're walking it back is because they got caught. The thing with PayPal, the thing with big corporation, this isn't just some startup that's in a double-wide garage out there. This isn't just some fly-by-night thing that somebody incepted one day and said, hey, we're going to make a bunch of money off of this by offering a platform to go and service other platforms through. So you don't have to go put your debit card information in all the time. You just click click the link for our new startup company, and all of a sudden that person gets paid. This is a multi-billion-dollar operation that made more in fees than a lot of banks make in profit in total. Which means they have massive legal departments. Terms of service don't just go up by a rogue employee. They have to go through the legal department. The legal department has to sign back off on them. They have to go up to the CEO. The CEO has to sign off on it. And then they have to go back down through the legal department to make sure one more time before they ever get posted off of this. This is not an accidental thing. This is not like the rogue pink hair that went out and decided to go ban Trump when he was still the president. It's not any of that. This was a carefully calculated move that a lot of people had to sign off on before anybody could ever see it. And once they got caught, and once they found out that people were not happy about it, they went back and said, oh, no, we're fine. No, we're not going to, we never intended to do that. As of right now, I still have my PayPal, but that's because I do need to take some time and get some money back out of it because I wanted to switch and I wanted to, I'm not going to do it now, but I wanted to switch and set my Twitch payout over to my savings account, so I was going to attach my savings account to my PayPal because my Twitch payout comes through PayPal currently. We will again be changing that in the near future. Many PayPal users, which at the time this was archived, was minus 6.27%, appear ready to cash out after the company released a controversial policy change, which it now says was an error. That would fine users $2,500 for spreading misinformation. The term boycott PayPal was trending on Twitter over the weekend after the acceptable use policy change came to light. What's more, Google searches for how to cancel PayPal and cancel PayPal account were still trending Monday, along with the delete PayPal account and how do I delete my PayPal account. The Financial World News also reported that global Google searches for delete PayPal spiked 1,392% after the AUP announced and the company's subsequent apology, according to Google Trends data. And bold-faced names, including PayPal's previous president, David Marcus, Tesla's Elon Musk, and Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, not to mention Hercules, the legendary Journey's actor Kevin Sorbo, have joined the PayPal backlash on Twitter. You know, I don't think I have Hercules. I think I have Xena. I bought season 1 way back when I started using Amazon Video, and I don't think I ever watched it. Maybe we'll have to do that at some point here. Too bad we can't do it together. That'd be a cool movie night thing to go back and do in the Discord. Sorbo, some of the stuff we read already, the David Marcus stuff, the Elon Musk stuff, but Boebert, remember, the only reason PayPal won't be finding people $2,500 for misinformation is because we spoke up, boycotted them, and canceled our accounts. Do not silently be a player in the game of cancel culture. Fight back. Kevin Sorbo says, PayPal isn't sorry, they're just mad they got caught. It should be noted that some other PayPal users came to the company's defense. I believe PayPal tweeted one. It was a mistake. So yeah, PayPal, they're not done because there are going to be a bunch of woke morons who still go in there and say, oh, this is what they really want to do. I believe them. Or other people out there who say, I have too much of my money and my life entwined in PayPal. I can't separate myself from them. But a lot of people who didn't have anything set in there went out and canceled them. I know friend of the show, Elena, over on Twitter, said that she had 2 that she hadn't used in years, that she canceled both of them. So that's what we have for that. Now, some of the problem, and I know that like they said Gab Pay is out there and things like that, is, especially if it's coming from Gab, yeah, it's really cool that you'll be able to go use Gab Pay to go get on Rumble or things like that. That's really cool. But because of the connotation with Gab, a lot of your major companies, and I'm not just talking like Amazon or something like that, I'm talking a lot of your major companies out there. Anything that you would want to go up, you want to go buy some makeup, go over to Sephora. Paramount Plus probably won't. That's one of the payments that I have off mine is Paramount Plus. A lot of them are not going to take Gab Pay just because they came from Gab. So do keep that in mind as you're looking for alternatives. I like the fact that Gab is coming up for alternatives, but it's like the parallel economies theory. It's the fact that, yeah, you can go over to these other sites, these other things, but a lot of people aren't going to take them because it's my far-right Nazi. But that's what we have for that. Let's talk about Russia and the Ukraine. From NBC, Russia unleashes deadly strikes on cities across Ukraine after Crimea bridge attack. From Yulia Talmazan and Mikhail Agarwal, Russia unleashed a barrage of deadly attacks on cities across the Ukraine on Monday, hitting the heart of the country's capital, Kiev, as part of a wave of strikes against civilians and infrastructure not seen since the earliest days of the war. From Lviv in the west to Kharkiv in the northeast, missiles tore through rush hour traffic and into energy facilities, in apparent retaliation for a blast that damaged a key bridge to the annexed Crimean Peninsula over the weekend. Vladimir Putin announced the televised address that his military launched a massive strike on Ukraine's energy, military command and communications facilities, telling his Security Council it was revenge for what he said was Kiev's long track record of terrorist actions, including the bridge blast. He also issued a threat. If attempts to carry out terrorist attacks on territory continue, Russia's response will be tough and will correspond in scale to level of threat posed to Mother Russia. No one should have doubts about this. Look at some of these folks, dude. Look at some of this. That is terrifying. After a series of humiliating battlefield setbacks that have piled pressure on Putin, the attacks were a sudden escalation that showed Moscow retained the capacity to terrorize Ukraine's population, if not defeat its military. They shattered months of relative calm in Kiev and other areas far from the front lines. At least 6 people were killed and 51 others were injured in the capital, the city's military admin said. Across the country, at least 19 were dead and 105 others were injured as of early Tuesday, according to the State Emergency Services of Ukraine. NBC has not verified the numbers. Russia used missiles and Iranian-built drones to target civilians and energy facilities throughout the country, Volodymyr Zelensky said in a recorded video. They want panic and chaos. They want to destroy our energy systems. They are hopeless, he said. Critical infrastructure facilities were damaged in Kiev and 12 regions of the country. Ukraine's state emergency services said with electricity supply partly disrupted in 15 regions, significant internet outages were also reported across the country by the monitoring group NetBlocks. The blast came hours after Putin first accused Ukraine of terrorism over the huge explosion that severely damaged the bridge connecting Russia and annexed Crimea on Saturday, dealing a strategic and symbolic blow to his campaign. Kiev has not taken responsibility for the incident. Yes, they have. Which the Russians said killed at least 3 people and was caused by a truck bomb. Alright. So then NBC goes on to talk about the battlefield failures and Putin being pushed back. I want to remind people of something here. What Putin did to Kiev was well within his capability for the entire time. Vladimir Putin has seemed intent on sticking to just liberating the regions that don't want to be a part of Ukraine anymore. Yes, he did his ground campaign against Kiev at first, but he backed out of it because he doesn't seem to be intent on taking the entire country. He wants to take the Donbass and a couple places around it, Zaporizhzhia, and what was it called? I can't think of the other territory right offhand. Kharkiv, that's the other one. The places that overwhelmingly voted to become a part of Russia. He wants those, but he doesn't seem to want the entire country right now. But when they keep saying, well, he's losing. Oh, they're pushing back. Oh, they're pushing him back out of there. He can push a couple buttons and make a couple phone calls and level your country. And he hasn't. Consider that for a second. And he doesn't even have to do it by nuclear means. So I do think a lot of this is staged, and a lot of it's out there to get the outrage coming out of people, because if you say something like what I just said, it's, you're a Putin sympathizer. Look, everybody in the GOP loves Putin. Mind you, I'm not in the GOP. But a lot of it is the propaganda to try to put brother against brother in this country. But that's what we see coming from that. Oh, and we have PayPal stuff. I guess we'll skip that. Let's keep going with the Russia stuff. Russia hammers Ukraine with missiles for second days. Putin proves deadly capabilities despite losing ground. From Charlie DeGatta and Tucker Reels. Ukraine faced yet another day of brutal Russian attacks on Tuesday. Multiple cities were hit again after dozens of missiles and explosives packed drones rained down across Ukraine on Monday. Many hit packed neighborhoods during the morning rush hour as civilians made their way to work in cities including the capital Kiev, which had largely escaped Russia's artillery for months. Ukrainian officials said at least 19 were killed in the first round of strikes on Monday, and more than 100 injured. The toll from Tuesday's onslaught wasn't immediately clear. Air raid sirens pierced the quiet of early morning hours, accompanied by new alerts sent out via cell phones warning of incoming missiles. I thought they had no internet. Russia's defense ministry confirmed Tuesday that it had continued its massive attack using high-precision, long-range air and sea-based armament. Moscow has called the area assault retaliation for an apparent Ukrainian attack on the Kerch Bridge over the weekend, the only land link between Ukraine's Russia-occupied Crimean Peninsula and mainland Russia. The Ukrainian military said Russia fired more than 75 cruise missiles at the country on Monday, with around 40 intercepted by air defense systems. About 24 Iranian-made suicide drones were used in the attacks as well. Ukraine's infrastructure, the only target of the strikes according to Russia, has indeed taken a pounding. President Zelensky has asked businesses to close after 6 p.m. and residents to limit appliance use during peak hours in a bid to conserve electricity. On Tuesday, Ukraine was still reeling from the onslaught of the fresh barrage of missiles struck. People emerged into rubble-strewn streets to survey the damage and count the costs, but contrary to Russia's claims, those costs were being counted not only in damaged infrastructure but in dead civilians. The assault sent residents in Kiev back into subways and other underground shelters for the first time in many weeks, where they defiantly sang Ukrainian folk songs and their country's national anthem. Dude, you can come out here and say, "We are owning the Russians, we sing Ukrainian folk songs." Putin doesn't care. I can say that right off the bat. If he cared, your city would be encircled right now. And a lot of you guys would be going back out in handcuffs and chains. But again, our Western propaganda here is going to come back out to try to tell us that, oh, he just wants to annex the entirety of Ukraine and rebuild the entire Soviet Union once again. So, that's what we see coming for that. But the West getting involved, that's going to be a little bit of fun here. From Reuters, Germany to deliver air defense systems to Ukraine within days, Defense Ministry. No author given. Germany will deliver the first of 4 IRIS-T SLM air defense systems to Ukraine within days, German Defense Minister Christine Lambrecht said on Monday. The renewed missile fire in Kiev and many other cities show how important it is to supply Ukraine with air defense systems quickly, Lambrecht said in a statement. Russia's attacks with missiles and drones terrorize civilian population in particular. That's way more Russian than German. In spite of the fact that I lived with somebody who majored in the language of German for almost a year, I don't do a very good German accent. This is why we are now providing support, especially with air defense systems. Now, for Germany getting involved in this, I'm opposed to it, but how do I put this without saying I'm pro-Ukraine? I'm opposed to Germany doing this, but I understand why. Because their consulate, their sovereign territory in Ukraine, their embassy, was one of the first buildings that got bombed after the bridge attack. Because they had it evacuated. There were no German citizens in there at the time. It's been evacuated for 6 months. I'm sympathetic to why they're doing it. I still don't agree with it. I still don't think they should be. If there was a German citizen in there, it'd be a different story. And I'd be sympathetic and say, okay, well, maybe we can have a conversation about this. But while I understand, again, why they're doing it, I don't think it's right and they shouldn't be. Biting words and are angry about it. That is probably the most accurate assessment of a German accent. Which is also kind of weird, by the way, because I could think about Anna Voltis for a second, and he doesn't sound like he's biting words and angry about it. He's got a different German accent than I've ever heard in my life. of like Anaboltus. One of these times, I hope he pops into live chat, or Discord chat again. But that's what they have for that. From our neck of the woods, from Axios, Biden condemns Ukraine attack as Putin claims it's retaliation for terrorism. President Biden condemned missile strikes ordered against multiple Ukrainian cities on Monday by Russian President Vladimir Putin, who claimed they were in retaliation for the explosion of a bridge linking mainland Russia with occupied Crimea. Ukraine's State Emergency Services said in a Telegram post that at least 19 people died and 5 others were wounded in the attacks, as air raid sirens sounded across the country, with reports Tuesday that the southeastern city of Zaporizhzhia had again been attacked. I thought Zaporizhzhia was voted to be part of Russia. What is he saying? Hey, these attacks killed and injured civilians and destroyed targets with no military purpose, and they once again demonstrate the utter brutality of Mr. Putin's illegal war on the Ukrainian people. What war is legal? Please explain that to me. They always throw that extra buzzword in there. It's an illegal war. An illegal invasion, man. Come on. These attacks only further reinforce our commitment to stand with the people of Ukraine for as long as it takes. Biden said the U.S. will continue to impose costs on Russia and hold. We're going to hold Putin and Russia accountable for its atrocities and war crimes. Look in the mirror, you war criminal, and everything that you voted for as a senator, and everything that happened under your administration, under your former boss, too. The president phoned Zelensky to condemn the attacks and vowed the U.S. would continue providing Ukraine with support needed to defend itself, including advanced air defense systems, according to the White House. So, that's what we see for that, and of course, because Germany did it, we have to do it too. From CNN, Biden promises Ukraine advanced air defense systems after Russian missile strikes, from Megan Vasquez and Sam Fossum. Yeah, it's just going to pop up real quick. He's going to send the SCV out, and it's just going to put the missile turrets back up there. President Biden spoke with Volodymyr Zelensky on Monday after a deluge of Russian missiles targeted cities across Ukraine, condemning the strikes and pledging continued U.S. security assistance, including advanced air defense systems. How much more before they put boots on the ground, by the way? During the call, the White House statement said Biden expressed... I'm sorry, that's the White House statement, that's not Biden. Biden expressed his condemnation of Russia's missile strikes across the Ukraine, including Kiev, and conveyed his condolences to the loved ones of those killed and injured in these senseless attacks. President Biden pledged to continue providing Ukraine with the support needed to defend itself, including advanced air defense systems. The White House did not specify which air defense systems Biden discussed with Zelensky, but they definitely discussed it with Raytheon. I saw a tweet, and I didn't put it in the stack today, but, what was it? Somebody had said, aren't we glad that we have a president that's not getting his foreign policy advice from... I know it was the pillow guy, but there were a couple others in there, too, and I can't remember. But the tweet said that, and I said, yeah, it's so much better that he's getting all of his foreign policy advice from Raytheon, Halliburton, and Northrop Grumman. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Probably not. I tweet way too much on a weekday. By the way, you guys think if they offered immunity to Hunter, Biden would resign? Did they delete it? Oh no, it's right here. I found it. Oh yes, it was Republicans Against Trumpism were the geniuses that put it out. Republicans Against Trumpism said, "I'm so relieved that unlike his predecessor, President Biden doesn't take advice on foreign policy from Kanye West, Elon Musk, and My Pillow Guy." And I said, yes, so much better that he take it from Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, and Halliburton. Which is, by the way, where he's getting his foreign policy advice from. Biden, the statement said, also underscored his ongoing engagement with allies and partners to continue imposing costs on Russia, holding Russia accountable for its war crimes and atrocities, and providing Ukraine with security, economic, and humanitarian assistance. Asked whether the attacks in the past 24 would change the calculus on what the U.S. would consider offering Ukraine, a senior admin official said they had no announcements to make on that front, but that the U.S. will continue to help provide Ukraine with short and long-range air defense systems as it has in the past. And the senators and congresspeople and the president, who have stock and interest in Raytheon, Halliburton, Northrop Grumman, what's the other one? The one that's Lockheed Martin, are going to get a massive stock payout. Isn't it funny how that works? Belarus is getting into this here from the Hill, and I think this is the last one that we have on this. Yes. Then we get to go ahead to talk about all the mudslinging, which I think is going to be fun. Belarus's Lukashenko announces troop deployments with Russia amid escalations in Ukraine. From Brad Dress. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. Sounds an awful lot like Worf's kid on Next Generation, but I know that wasn't Lukashenko, that was Roshenko. Alexander! I never understood why he had a human name. Alexander Lukashenko on Monday announced a joint military task force with Russia to deploy the western border of the country near Ukraine amid a series of escalations in the Ukraine-Russia conflict. The Belarusian news outlet Belta reported that Lukashenko and Russian President Vladimir Putin had agreed to the deployment of the troops, which includes forces from both Belarus and Russia. Lukashenko said the task force includes more than 1,000 troops and has already begun forming. He also said thousands more Russian troops could soon be deployed within Belarus. "This will not be just 1,000 troops," he said, according to the New York Times, a former newspaper. Russia deployed tens of thousands of soldiers to Belarus as a staging ground for its initial invasion of Ukraine in February, and hundreds remained there, launching missiles and air raids. The new joint deployment comes after Russia launched mass strikes against Ukrainian cities in retaliation for an explosion on a key bridge connecting the Russian mainland to the Crimean Peninsula, which Putin called an act of terrorism and blamed on the Ukraine. The Russian strikes killed at least 5 Ukrainian civilians in the capital of Kiev and more than a dozen in the southeastern city of Zaporizhzhia, drawing international condemnation across the Western world and renewed accusations of war crimes. During a recent Security Council meeting, Lukashenko also said that he was warned through unofficial channels about strikes on Belarus from Ukraine without providing evidence. Yeah, before I condemn that, I am going to need to see evidence for that. They said there would be Crimean Bridge 2. The information was immediately brought to my attention, the president said, according to another article from Belta. "My answer is simple. Tell President of Ukraine and other insane people, if they are still there, that Crimean Bridge will be just the thin end of wedge to them. If only they touch a single meter of our territory with their dirty hands." Svietlana Tsikhanouskaya, a Belarusian opposition leader, dismissed the claims that Ukraine poses a threat to the country. "It is a lie by Lukashenko to justify his complicity in terror against Ukraine," she tweeted. "It also violates national security. I urge Belarusian military. Do not follow criminal orders. Refuse to participate in Putin's war against neighbors." There's an LP in Belarus? It sounds like a bunch of people that would pretty soon be disappeared. I don't know, but that's what's going on over there right now, and that's what they're sending your tax dollars to, right as we come into a midterm election. All right, let's talk about mudslinging. From the Blaze, we have a lot to focus on the Hobbs Lake race because that seems to be the one that's on everybody's mind right now. I'm more concerned about Evers versus Michaels, but this is a national show, so this is the one that seems to be on everybody's mind, at least according to the main news outlets out here. From the Blaze, Democrat Katie Hobbs was a no-show at Hispanic Town Hall where Kari Lake thrilled voters. Arizona gubernatorial candidate Katie Hobbs was a no-show at a town hall hosted by Spanish-language media Wednesday, while her Republican opponent Kari Lake not only came to the event but was a hit with a crowd. Lake spoke for more than an hour, addressing questions on K-12 education, public safety, immigration. She received loud applause for her answers, all the while standing next to an empty podium that was reserved for Hobbs. One of the event organizers said that Hobbs, who currently serves as Secretary of State for Arizona, declined an invitation to participate. Members of the audience booed upon hearing that Hobbs would not appear alongside Lake. Let's watch.
Kari Hobbs and Kari Lake were invited. Unfortunately, Katie Hobbs declined the invitation, so she would not be invited. Kari Lake, however, did accept the invitation. So would you please welcome to the stage candidate for Governor of Arizona, Kari Lake. Thank you so much for.
Now, Kari Lake's a class act, too, by the way. She's eloquent. She's fun. She does a little bit of the MAGA religious thing. I will give that against her. But, I mean, for the most part, she's a class act. She's very classy. She's very elegant. She's very eloquent. I can't say anything good or bad against Katie Hobbs because, let's face it, we just haven't seen her. She just doesn't show up. The Democrat candidate has refused to participate in debates, calling her GOP opponent a 2020 election conspiracy theorist. Hobbs campaign manager Nicole DeMont said in September that any debate would give Lake an opportunity to just create another spectacle, and that you can't debate a conspiracy theorist. Really? I do it all the time. Well, not so much anymore because we're both extremely busy in our schedules, but I used to call up Stephen Ignoramus and we'd do that all the time. We did it for 12 hours in the truck one time. Well, not 12 hours, because he did do some live streaming and some music while we were on that trip. And he did music literally the whole way back. But yes, you can debate a conspiracy theorist. I do it all the time. What else do we have from that one? Kari Lake was booted from Arizona Town Hall audience before Hobbs took the stage. From Mark Caputo. Katie Hobbs won't debate her opponent in Arizona's race for governor. Kari Lake tried to make it happen at a candidate town hall that organizers say she disrupted. Under the agreed-upon rules for the pre-recorded event, which was taped on Monday and airs at 7 p.m. on Saturday, the candidates were not supposed to be on stage at the same time, and Hobbs was supposed to go first. But a problem arose before Hobbs even took the stage. Lake was sitting in the front row with a direct line of sight of where her opponent would sit. As a crowd of more than 200 watched, organizers said Lake was supposed to be in a holding room under the rules, a copy of which they refused to provide to NBC News. Probably because it wasn't actually in there. Lake protested, saying she was unaware of that rule and that Hobbs should come out and debate her. Hobbs did not. Oh, we've got video of Katie Hobbs. After several minutes, Lake complied, leaving behind her campaign surrogate, Mexican telenovela star Eduardo Verastegui. Carrie Lake brought along Mexican telenovela star, and she brought the drama. It was like a telenovela, said Joe Garcia, an independent voter, and the executive director of voter outreach for the group Chicanos por la Causa Acción Fund. Yeah, trust me, no, he's not an independent voter. Which is a co-sponsor of the event, along with the state and national Hispanic Chambers of Congress. Garcia's description of the scene matched the account of 5 eyewitnesses, including representatives from both campaigns, as well as video provided by Lake's campaign that showed the Republican pleading her case with moderator Leon Krause, a Univision news anchor, and event producer Mary Rabago. Garcia believes Lake's actions were a stunt designed to rattle Hobbs, which she said appeared to work because the Democrat gave an uneven performance in his view. There is a proper way to do that, and that's not it. And I would be criticizing this the same way if Katie Hobbs did the same thing to Carrie Lake. So, while yes, I would love to see a debate between the two of you, that's not the way to do it. Let's listen to what Hobbs has to say.
Joining us now is the Arizona Secretary of State, Katie Hobbs. She is the state's chief elections officer. She's also running for the Democratic gubernatorial nomination tonight in Arizona. She is favored, but it is early, and until the votes are counted, we don't have a winner. But let me, Madam Secretary of State, let me start with your gubernatorial race. Mm-hmm. In some cases, I feel like the coverage of all things Arizona governor is all about the 2020 election at times. But you tell me, what are the voters telling you that the November election's about?
Voters are certainly telling me that they want to move on from the 2020 election, and nobody wants to do that more than I do. What I'm hearing from them is they want someone who's going to tackle the real issues that they're facing. They're concerned about rising prices on everything from groceries to gas to housing. They're concerned about fixing our schools and investing in public education in Arizona, addressing our state's water crisis, and protecting reproductive freedom in Arizona.
Yeah. One of your potential opponents, Carrie Lake, has said that there has already been some evidence, although she hasn't presented any actual substantive evidence, she believes of some type of fraud or impropriety. Your reaction to that, and if you do wind up facing her in the fall, what would your strategy be, given that she does seem to be focused on 2020 still?
Look, the outright lies that she's telling about things that she has no evidence for are absolutely disqualifying. That's my response to that. And I will say that as loud and as often as I need to. She continues to tout these lies. And whenever she's confronted about it, she just changes the subject. She has no evidence.
If Governor Ducey were running again, what would you say would be the chief reason why voters shouldn't reelect him? What would be the number one issue you'd be running against him on?
Well,
so yeah, and a lot of this is smear campaign at this point. It's a matter of Katie Hobbs looks up and says, I can't debate Carrie Lake. I can't debate my way out of a paper bag. So I'll just come back out onto friendly territory and say, oh, evil conspiracy theorist. From the Hill, Katie Hobbs says she won't be a part of the spectacle of debating Carrie Lake. I'm going to gloss over this one because with the video that we just watched, this does look like this is we just listened to from them. But on the same thing from the town hall from before, Democrat Katie Hobbs stumbles when asked what she's learned from the Latino community. Oh, excuse me. But it's because Kari Lake was in the audience. Arizona Secretary of State Katie Hobbs, the Democrat nominee for governor, gave a cringe-worthy stumbling response at a town hall event over the weekend. When asked how the Latino community of Arizona has impacted her, her answer was translated, "Practicing my Spanish a little." The question was asked at the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce Forum in Phoenix, where Hobbs and Kari Lake made separate appearances as campaign season winds to a close ahead of the November 8th election. Moderator Leon Krause asked Hobbs what she has learned from the Latino community after she described being impacted by them as a lifelong Arizonian. Let's listen to what that sounded like.
Let me ask you, how has it impacted you personally? What have you learned?
Wow, this is NBC and you have that crap audio? Alright, let's painfully listen instead. I thought because this was coming from Univision and NBC that we'd actually have a decent amount of audio from this, but it sounds like this was recorded through a potato.
Specifically learned from the Latino community?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't necessarily think about it that way in those terms. I think I really value my relationships across the board with different folks, and I learn all the time from people in my life. My sister-in-law, she is Latino, and her family. I love hanging out with them and practicing my Espanol un poquito. But yeah, I mean, I learned so much from her family, but I think it's really hard to separate out Arizona and subtract Latino culture because it's so much a part of who we are as a state, and Arizona wouldn't be Arizona without what the Latino community brings.
So there's not one specific lesson you could share with me, other than Espanol with you. It's 1/3 of the state.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think there's many lessons. The emphasis on family values, hard work. Those are something that I value in my own life, and you know.
The family values and things like that, which, by the way, is if you're actually going to talk about the Hispanic community, that is one of the big ones with them, is that they do have a deep sense of family values. They will put generations together in one house, like 3 or 4, sometimes 5. Depending on how this goes. That's a good lesson to take away, but it's almost universal at that point too. But yeah, Katie Hobbs, everybody. Shifting gears, we'll talk about Georgia. From the Hill, judge rules against Stacey Abrams' organization in Georgia voting rights lawsuit. This is an older article. I almost took this back off because it was over a week old, but when I saw that we were going to be talking about this today, I said, no, we got to talk about this one. From Jared Gons. A federal judge has ruled against an organization founded by Stacey Abrams, the Democrat gubernatorial nominee for Georgia, stating that the state's election practices do not violate constitutional rights. The decision from U.S. District Court Judge Steve Jones marks the end of a 4-year legal battle. Although Georgia's election system is not perfect, the challenged practices violate neither the Constitution or the Voting Rights Act, Jones wrote. Having held a non-jury trial and considered the evidence and arguments of the parties for the foregoing reasons, the court finds in favor of the defendants and against the plaintiffs. Fair Fight Georgia, which Abrams formed shortly after her narrow defeat to Governor Brian Kemp in the state's 2018 gubernatorial race, filed a lawsuit to ask the judge to make changes to the state's election system, arguing that it suppresses voter turnout. I have, as I've grown, been more in favor of suppressing the voter turnout, by the way. Some of the people's proposals, which I don't completely find disfavor to, would exclude me from voting currently, given the fact that I don't own this roof over my head. So be it. Abrams accused Kemp, who was serving as Secretary of State at the time, of mismanagement of the election. In addition, she criticized the exact match law, which declared that voter registration forms be marked pending if the information does not exactly match the information on record at the Department of Driver Services or the Social Security Administration. Yeah, it's kind of funny how often they want an exact match when it comes to Republican signatures, but when it's like the recall election here for Governor Walker, they wanted to count all the signatures that said Mickey Mouse on them. Isn't it funny how that works? The plaintiffs argued that Georgia's election system violates the right to vote from the First and 14th Amendment to the Constitution. I don't believe there's a right to vote in the Constitution. I believe there's a privilege to vote. A ban on racial discrimination in voting from the 15th Amendment, equal protection and procedural due process under the law from the 14th Amendment and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The group argued that the State Election Board and Georgia Secretary of State provided inadequate training to the county election officials in absentee ballot cancellation procedures. They also alleged the Secretary of State mismanaged the voter registration database. Abrams' organization filed the lawsuit with Care in Action, a nonprofit advocating for the domestic workers, and was joined by multiple churches. The complaint was amended in December of 2020 to the name Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger in his official capacity as the state's top election official. The Associated Press reported that Abrams said she was disappointed with the decision, but added that the conduct of the trial represents a hard-won victory for voters who waited in long lines and experienced burdensome date of birth requirements and exact match laws that disproportionately impact black and brown voters. The short answer to this is Stacey Abrams just lost Georgia. I don't know how much more terse we can make that, but Stacey Abrams just lost Georgia. An interesting one out of Indiana. House GOP contender claims opponent Politico pubbed details of Iraq sex assault to discredit her. Terrific. This is the way we're going to go down with this. From Mark Moore and Caitlin Dornbus. An Iraq war veteran running for Congress in Indiana has accused her Democrat opponent and Politico of illegally revealing details of her sexual assault to paint her as a failed military officer. Yeah, I can't find a universe where this ends well. Jennifer Ruth Green, a Republican running against Frank Mervyn in Indiana's 1st, was profiled by reporter Adam Wren in a Friday article that revealed an Iraqi serviceman grabbed her breast and exposed himself after she left a group of officers to climb a guard tower during a visit to Iraq's National Training Center. We said, no, please don't publish the assault, and they did it anyway, Green said of Politico and Wren during an interview with Fox News Digital. At one point in my life, I said to my assailant, no, please stop, don't. And he did what he wanted to do. This is the exact same situation all over again, all because there was a man who wanted some sort of gratification. The assault happened while Green was assigned to Special Investigations Unit in Iraq, working to neutralize her terrorist and espionage threats. Politico wrote an evaluation of the incident, faulted Green for wandering away from the group, the report added, and the criticism hindered her ability to rise in the ranks. In a statement on Twitter, Green claimed that Mervyn fished details of the assault to the news outlet, asking them to share misinformation to portray me as a failed military officer who lacks integrity. I'm a survivor of sexual trauma in the military, Green said in her statement. I'm being forced to share this information outside my own timeline and for the first time publicly because my congressman, Frank Mervyn, and his cronies illegally obtained my military records describing my sexual assault. Yeah, no, they have no scruples, but I would go a little bit further than what you had to say, Ron, and say the best politicians, not just Democrat politicians, the best politicians are the unemployed ones. Congressman Frank Mervyn gets his gratification trying to think that he's smearing me. Adam Wren gets his gratification, thinks he's going to get a good smear story out of it. Green told Fox News Digital, and all it does is essentially reopen wounds for victims, and I absolutely cannot believe it. I'm so outraged. The Air Force veteran added that she suspects Politico would have handled the situation differently if she were a Democrat. Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Everybody knows that. If I were on the other side of the ticket, they would weep for me, mourn for me, she told the outlet. Only because I'm a Republican do they feel this is acceptable, but it's unacceptable for every vet, it's unacceptable for every woman, it's unacceptable for everybody who's ever been a victim of sexual assault. I've got this feeling that this swarthy tone in her skin and her being a Republican probably had something to do with it as well. I hate to say it, and I hate to bring the race into it, but I've got a feeling. Is there a physiognomy check on Frank Mervyn? Let's find out. Would you look at that? That's the person making the accusation and running the smear piece. Would you look at that? All right. We'll gloss over this one because New York Post did a very good job of going through that one. Would you look at that? Let's grab this one from over on Twitter. Now, I've followed this all the way back through, so bear with me a little bit as we go. But Tina Ramirez, who is a candidate, a Republican candidate for Virginia 12, tweets out tonight, David Levitt called Child Protective Services to report child abuse because I teach my daughter about Christopher Columbus and real American history. As a single mother, I am my daughter's only support. This is appalling for a number of reasons. She goes on. Radical leftist David Levitt didn't just call CPS to level accusations against me. He waited an hour on hold, tying up the lines of our CPS professionals, trying rather to help Virginia's children. The radical left is willing to put our children at risk to cancel conservatives. It is no surprise that a member of the radical left is willing to go so far as to call CPS on a single mother simply because they want to erase history. The radical left doesn't want parents making decisions for their own families. This goes back to what Virginians have fought for in 2021 when they elected Youngkin parents' rights. The radical left is willing to sit on hold with CPS for a full hour to level accusations of child abuse, all because we don't agree with their out-of-touch worldview. Friend of the show, Jessica Green, tells everybody, I think this is the same dude that went psycho on a Target employee over a toothbrush because he didn't understand what display products were. He is universally regarded as a lunatic. I think I know this person, by the way. I don't know if I do or not, but the thumbnail looks familiar. Like somebody I know from my real life. Well, from my past real life, but when I'm not on air, I'll look at the picture closer. But we are going to follow this all the way back through. And it does look like Levitt has blocked Ramirez. Alright, the beginning part of this, Tina Ramirez tweets out, "Only women can be pregnant. Do I owe PayPal $2,500 now?" David Levitt replies, "Why are you celebrating torture, rape, murder, and enslavement?" Going back, Ramirez quote tweets and says, "I teach my daughter real American history, and I refuse to join the radical left's campaign to erase history." Going back again. "Can someone please call child care services on Tina Ramirez, who's teaching her child to be a racist?" Scrolling down, with the CPS hotline, by the way, the 1-800 number right there. The Virginia State Hotline for Child Abuse has a 10-plus minute hold, and it's experiencing high call volumes with 14 callers ahead of me. This is absolutely unacceptable. How many people try to report child abuse and hang up? How many children will continue to be abused? I do think, by the way, that this is shoot. The Virginia State Hotline for Child Abuse has 20-plus minute hold and is experiencing high call volumes with 14 callers ahead of me. This is absolutely unacceptable. How many people tried to report child abuse and hang up? How many children will continue to be abused? And then he does the same thing again, almost with the same quote. But now he's at 27 minutes. Same quote, same thing. It's like he's quoting from a script here. Now he's at 35:06. 42:44. And then he goes on. "The lady who's teaching her kids how to be racist thinks I'm bold. Does she know I'm on hold to report her child to Child and Family Services?" Quote tweeting Tina Ramirez, who says, "Mighty bold and liberal of you to lecture a Hispanic mother with a black daughter on racism. What's next? Are you going to try to lecture me on women's rights?" He continues, "Having a black child doesn't make you any less racist." He continues. Now he's at 50-plus minutes. "Why is there so much child abuse in Virginia?" 1 hour and 1 second. And then goes back with the same attack line again. "Having a black child doesn't make you any less racist." And which Ramirez, where we saw where we started from tonight, David Levitt called CPS to report child abuse because I teach my daughter about Christopher Columbus and real American history. What a class act that one is. Do we do a physiognomy check on this one? Yeah, and he looks like that too. So, yeah, that's the big mudslinging that goes on with that. That's kind of insane. Go back to the middle of the country with Colorado. Colorado, 30,000 non-citizens get vote registration mailer. From James Anderson of the Associated Press. Colorado Secretary of State office said it mistakenly sent postcards to about 30,000 non-citizens encouraging them to register to vote, blaming the error on a database glitch related to the state's list of residents with driver's licenses. Why do non-citizens have driver's licenses? The Office of Democratic Secretary of State Jenna Griswold insisted none of the non-citizens will be allowed to register to vote if they try. The news comes at a time of widespread skepticism, often unfounded, of voting integrity following the 2020 presidential election, as Griswold, who touted her role as a national advocate for secure elections, seeks re-election in the November midterms. Tell me more. Colorado's Republican Party Chair Christy Burton Brown condemned the Griswold for the error, saying Monday that in a statement that Jenna Griswold continues to make easily avoidable errors just before ballots go out by mail on October 17th. Griswold faces Republican Pam Anderson, but not the one that was married to Tommy Lee, I'm guessing, a former suburban Denver clerk and head of the state's County Clerk Association, who is a staunch advocate of Colorado's all-mail voting system. Griswold's office said in a statement that the postcards were mailed September 27th. The error happened after her department employees compared a list of names of 102,000 people provided by the Electronic Registration Information Center, a bipartisan multi-state organization devoted to voter registration, to a database of Colorado residents issued driver's licenses. That Department of Revenue driver's license list includes residents issued special licenses for people who are not U.S. citizens, but it didn't include formatting information that normally would have allowed the Department of State to eliminate those names before the mailers went out, Griswold's office said on Monday. Tell me more. Yes, tell me. Tell me more about how this was totally an accident. The incident is under investigation, it said. Investigation, you say? Colorado Public Radio News first reported the error. Colorado is among at least 18 states, along with D.C., that issue driver's licenses to non-U.S. citizens, according to the National Council on State Legislatures. Colorado also automatically registers eligible voters when they obtain their driver's licenses from the Department of Motor Vehicles, which, by the way, I think is a crap practice. I curated this one especially for our friend Midget B, and I put it in the Discord just for him, too. Democratic operatives create more than 50 partisan websites disguised as local news, likely in hopes of swinging midterms. I wonder if Kanye West knows anything about this, or has anything to say about something like this. Within the last year, Democrat operatives have unleashed more than 50 websites which appear to be local news sites, but which actually either promote Democratic candidates and agendas or criticize the Republican opposition. Why would they need 50 more websites so that they already have CNN and MSDNC? And Fox, by the way. Or criticize the Republican opposition. These websites specifically target swing states in hope of affecting the upcoming midterm elections. According to Axios, Local Report Incorporated, which was registered in Florida last year, has launched 51 websites with innocuous-sounding names such as the Northern Clark County Herald, the Valley Gazette, and Bucks County Standard. Local Report has created such websites in Arizona, Colorado, Georgia, Michigan, New Hampshire, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Wisconsin, all of which have competitive congressional and or gubernatorial races. The articles on those websites often appear like normal news publications, but they're actually pro-Democratic propaganda. In addition to lionizing Democrat candidates such as Josh Shapiro, who's running for governor in Pennsylvania, the sites promote major Democratic causes such as abortion and climate change. Since swing state voters do not typically identify Democrat pet projects as the most pressing political issues affecting their lives, Jordan Boyd at the Federalist quipped, "It's no surprise Democrats feel the need to hide their shady campaigning behind these inconspicuous sites." And these websites do look conspicuous and often offer many of the same features. Their mastheads claim to feature local and national news, sports stories, and some op-eds. All their outlet email addresses make some reference to Local Report. For example, the email contact for the Valley Gazette, ostensibly out of Arizona, is info@localreportaz.com. While all these sites are openly affiliated with Local Report, they are also indirectly tied to the American Independent and the #1 digital platform for progressive news. According to its website, TAI, based out of Washington, D.C., was founded by well-known Democratic fundraiser David Brock, who also founded the left-wing site Media Matters. Axios reports that 6 TAI writers have contributed pieces for most or all of the local report sites. So, finger on the scale. I wonder what publications are here. I think Capital Times is one of those. Maybe they're doing all this to come back and try to cover up for something like this. From the LA Times, Council President Nuri Martinez makes racist remarks in a leaked audio recording about Councilmember Mike Bonin's young son, where Council members Gil Cedillo and Kevin De Leon and County Federation of Labor President Ron Herrera chime in. This ought to be interesting. Let's listen. The group was discussing a dispute between council members Curran Price and Marquise Harris Dawson, who were at odds last year over the district would represent USC and Exposition Park once the new maps were finalized. The clip begins with Martinez recounting a conversation she allegedly had with businessman Danny Bakewell.
So getting back to Marquise, I told Danny, if you want to cut a deal and if you want to make like boss moves, I would go after the airport. He goes, I know that idea. I said, tell Marquise,
so
go take it from his friend.
Don't go
after. Leave him alone. Go get the airport from his little brother, that little bitch Bonnet.
How many black people?
I go, what is with Bonnet? And I said, Bonnet thinks he's fucking black. That guy don't think he's black. I go, he thinks he's black. I told her the same thing.
This kid is.
He goes, why are they so close?
And he's from Massachusetts. This kid, the one here, this kid is the dumb.
He's black.
Yeah.
Lo trae así during Black History Month, lo lleva al council y lo pone acá en el, remember, lo trae, it's an accessory. When we do the MLK parade.
Just like when
they used to have those statues in plantations.
Wait, and then when Nuri brings her little yard bag or the Louis Vuitton bag, and plays
su negrito, like on the side, and lo trae, ¿verdad? You sit next to it, you don't know the other side. For MLK, for the parade that Herb used to organize, and we need all the council who wanted to join Herb on the float, because he used to do a whole float to be nice. Bonnet would be like, hey Nuri, are you going to the MLK? Well, Herb invited me, yeah, I'll go. Okay, I'm bringing whatever the kid's name is. I'm like, it's like the oddest thing, it's like black and brown on this float. And then there's this white guy with this little black kid who's misbehaved. Este niño has they're not doing, the kid is bouncing off the effing walls on the float, practically tipping it over. There's nothing you can do to control him. Parece changuito. And I'm just like, oh my God. I'm over here trying to parent this kid. I'm like, you can't do that. I said no. And Mike is like, I'm like, you're not teaching your kid anything. It's me and Karen Bass on the float trying to check this little kid. Me, Karen Bass, y la esposa de Marquise, Carrie. And we're all looking at each other because we're the three women on the floor. Like, who's gonna? This kid's gonna tip us over. Because he's literally hanging on the rails.
Well, you can't let him off because the spectators will beat his ass.
Yeah.
They're raising him like a little white kid, which I was like, this kid needs a beat down. Like, let me take him around the corner and then I'll bring him back.
Yeah.
¿Sí me entiendes? Ven para acá.
It's a pinch.
Yeah.
But he is. He's the fourth black.
So anyways, getting back to redistricting.
Yeah.
It's always funny when we sit back and we hear something like this, because these are supposed to be the people who are absolutely they support all the races, and if you don't do what they say, that you're racist and all this kind of thing and everything else, and it's beyond the pale at something like this. And and it happens all the time too. I've recounted the story just the one story, and this was more an anti-Jewish sentiment than an anti-black sentiment, but I have so many other stories too about situations where my more progressive Democrat friends have casually thrown the N-word around and, talked about and talked down on certain neighborhoods because they're black neighborhoods. I've had a few of them talk down to me over the fact that I lived in what was essentially a black neighborhood when I lived in Kenosha. It was a very redlined area of the city that I lived in. But I rented, so I didn't buy in that neighborhood. But it was extremely redlined. And the people who were doing the most criticism were my progressive friends. When they think they're talking to fellow progressive people, they just come back out. And I was a Democrat at the time. I've said the ashtray joke, the Volkswagen joke. How do you fit 400 Jews in a Volkswagen? That joke, which I'm not going to throw the punchline on YouTube for very, very, very obvious reasons. The first time I heard that was from somebody who made a failed run as a progressive city council member for the city of Kenosha. The furthest left Democrat that I know told me that joke for the first time. And it always comes from them, over and over again. It's consistent. They do this constantly. And then come out and say that Republicans are racist and they want to enslave black people. All right, what else do we have? Not much, it's 9:22. Another lawsuit against the student loan forgiveness, which actually probably won't have standing again because I want to remind everybody that there's actually no EO or no legislation on the books for this, which means anybody who files a lawsuit is going to be found as to not have standing in this. But we can read on this. Another conservative lawsuit claims the details of Biden's student loan forgiveness were determined in secret with the purpose of implementation before the midterms to buy votes. From Eileen Sheffy. Conservative groups aren't easing up on their attempts to block President Biden's student loan forgiveness. On Monday, the Job Creators Network Foundation Legal Action Fund, a conservative organization, filed a lawsuit to block Biden's up to $20,000 in student debt cancellation, announced at the end of August. It's at least the fifth major lawsuit filed against the relief, and it comes just one day before a federal judge is set to hear the arguments from 6 Republican-led states who claim the loan forgiveness will hurt their state's tax revenues and should be halted. The Job Creators lawsuit argues that the loan forgiveness violates the Admin Procedures Act notice and comment procedure, which requires an unelected administrator to justify rulemaking to the public. The group wrote in a court filing that the Education Department never sought public comment on the debt relief, and instead the countless legal, policy, economic, and other issues implicated by such a program were all debated and determined in secret, and with the goal of implementing the policy before the November midterms to help Democrats win votes. They're calling on the court to stop this counterproductive, inflationary, and unfair action from taking effect per the press release. By shifting the burden to taxpayers, including those who didn't go to college or paid the student loans back, colleges escape the responsibility for their actions, creating the student loan crisis. Elaine Parker, president of the Job Creators Network Foundation, in a statement, they're given carte blanche to continue their ridiculous pricing. Bailing out this debt only kicks this problem down the road by blocking this inflationary taxpayer bailout. JCN's lawsuit can lay the groundwork to actually solve the student debt crisis by holding its college perpetrators accountable. This is all very, very good, interesting information, and I agree with most of this. But my problem is, of course, what the reaction is and what was intended to do this. Now, again, I remind you, there is no active EO for student loan forgiveness. There's none. There is zero. It doesn't exist. There's no legislation. There's no executive order. There's no real plan to actually implement this. And what did they do this for? So that people would do exactly this. Coming into this is actually a setup for 24, by the way. This was a long game one. This is not a short-term gain that they're trying to do. A long game off this because they knew that they couldn't get anything back out on paper and ready to go by 2022 was so that they would have a plausible deniability of sorts that the admin could look at and say, oh, well, we tried this so hard. Oh, come on, guys. We tried to get your student loan forgiveness, but wouldn't you know it, the evil Republicans blocked us again. Oh, you better vote for us in 24, otherwise you're going to have to pay back your student loans. Oh, no. And by the way, with this being out there, there is going to continue to be, I can say with almost certainty at this point, that there will continue to be an offset. And this is going to continue to be down the road. It's going to, oh, well, there's not going to be any more payments. We're going to pause the payments again. We're sorry. The evil Republicans blocked us. Oh, no, it's too soon. The Republican Congress hasn't been seated yet. But we got to push this off again because they're going to block this. And, you're not going to get your forgiveness. So we'll push this off again. And, sorry, you're not going to get it. We're sorry. And they're going to keep doing this until 2025. And I would be willing to bet, depending on what happens in the midterms, that the last push-off, the last kicking the can down the road will end on October. January. I can do months, I promise. January 21st, 2025. Will be when the final kicking of the can down the road ends. Let's do this one, and then we'll actually, I think, be done with everything for the day, and we'll be able to start fresh tomorrow, except, of course, the stuff that's left over from before. So the last one that we'll do, and we've talked about Rivian before, and their partnership between Amazon and Ford to come out and make an all-electric fleet for Amazon. That didn't seem to go over too well, and not a lot of people wanted to go back and buy. Now they're having other troubles here, and it kind of looks like people were right not to go back and buy into this company. Rivian is recalling 12,000 vehicles for loose bolts. That is, by the way, as far as I understand, the entirety of vehicles they have on the road is 12,000. Rivian, the Irvine, California-based electric vehicle company, is recalling nearly all the vehicles it has produced to tighten a loose fastener in the vehicle's front suspension. The recall involves 12,212 electric pickups, vans, and SUVs, according to the paperwork the company filed with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. The Amazon-backed electric vehicle manufacturer sent messages to its customers on Friday to inform them of the recall, according to a statement from the company, which emphasized that it has not yet heard of any injuries as a result of the issue. 7 instances potentially related to the issue have been reported, and there have been no reported injuries, according to Rivian. Customers who begin to notice any unusual noises or vibrations from the front of their vehicles are advised to contact Rivian immediately. The company plans to set up pop-up service areas in areas with particularly high density of Rivian owners. Really, you have 12,000 vehicles across the entire nation. How high density can you actually have? The statement went on to say the company has the capacity to inspect all affected vehicles and make any necessary repairs within 30 days, and that there is no cost to customers, nor is there any material financial impact to the company. Except for the fact that it shows that they can't do crap correct Rivian produces the R1T electric pickup, the R1S SUV, and electric delivery vans for Amazon, which is the company's largest investor. This is the company's third recall. According to the NHTSA, the company recalled about 500 vehicles in August for an airbag issue and about 200 vehicles in May for an issue involving seatbelt anchors. The current issue involves a nut on the vehicle's front suspension that may not have been sufficiently tightened during manufacturing. Rivian is asking customers to bring their trucks to a Rivian service center to have the nut inspected and tightened. If necessary, customers can also request a visit from a Rivian mobile service unit, which is probably going to be in a gas-powered Ford Transit van. In the event the customer's vehicles needs to be kept for service or any extended period, loaner vehicles will be provided. Oh, will it be another Rivian? Rivian is headquartered in Irvine, but its manufacturing plant is in Normal, Illinois. The company also has plans to open a manufacturing plant in Georgia and recently announced talks with Mercedes to jointly invest in electric van manufacturing in Europe. But as predicted, their shares went down too, which they weren't doing well to begin with. From CNBC, Rivian shares slumped after the company announced big recall. From John Rosevier, it looks like a Ranger and a Bronco had a baby, by the way. Just so you know. The new Bronco, not the classic one. From the back it actually looks kind of cool, but from the front I couldn't. There's no way. Not to mention I can't imagine the towing capacity is any good on those things. Maybe it is, I have no idea. Shares of Rivian fell sharply on Monday after the electric vehicle maker said late Friday that's recalling more than 12,000 vehicles, nearly every EV it has made to date, to double check that a fastener in the vehicle's steering assembly was properly tightened. After falling more than 10% at times during the day, Rivian stock ended the session down about 7%. The recall includes every Rivian R1T pickup and R1S SUV made through late September, as well as some of the EDV delivery vans produced for Amazon, 12,212 vehicles in all, though the company estimates that only about 1% of those have the defect. You know, when this first came out and we found out that this was a joint venture between Amazon and Ford, I said I would probably throw a couple bucks into that. Because I think this could actually go somewhere. I wouldn't buy one, but I know a lot of people that would. And now I'm kind of glad that I didn't. So, there you go. If you bought Rivian stock, you lost out a little bit. We'll do one more, because then we've got everything done. Everything that I set out for today is done, and everything that we have left on here is left over from yesterday. Which we'll go through some of that and see what's outdated too. But from the blaze, California to ban stores from providing the little plastic bags grocery goers often use to stow produce while shopping. California, a state known for its onerous regulations caused by left-wing policies, has approved legislation to ban stores from providing those helpful little plastic bags that consumers commonly use to store produce while shopping in a supermarket. And by the way, around here, they don't like it if you don't use those bags. They get pretty mad about that, actually. The new rule is slated to go into effect on January 1st, 2025, but even after it takes hold, stores will still be allowed to offer compostable bags and recycled paper bags according to the bill. The text of the bill states that a pre-checkout bag means a bag provided to a customer before the customer reaches the point of sale that is designed to protect a purchased item from damage or containing other purchased items in a checkout bag or contain an unwrapped food item such as, but not limited to, Loose produce, meat or fish, nuts, grains, candy, and baked bakery goods pre-checkout bag does not include a bag used to pre-package items prior to their arrival at the store. Gavin Newsom, who survived a gubernatorial recall last year and is currently running for re-election, signed the measure in September. This kind of plastic film is not recyclable. Its containment in almost any bin you put it into. Director of Advocacy for Californians Against Waste, Nick Lapis, said, according to the Mercury News, which noted that Californians Against Waste backed the measure. It flies around landfills and flies out of trucks and gets stuck in gears and at recycling facilities, and it contaminates compost. Is problematic product, and we want to get rid of it. Well, the good news is you'll be able to sneak stuff into the bags as you head out of there. But yes, one more onerous regulation. One more. They keep making them. Alright, let's look at the Twitter trending and let's head out of here for the day. The last thing we do on Tuesdays, we look at the trending, see what it is that Twitter wants us to be talking about, see what we missed, and see what we're doing. So, we will start with Tulsi Gabbard, which, by the way, is going to be on the stack for tomorrow. Tulsi Gabbard has announced her resignation from the Democratic Party and accuses the political organization of being under the control of the elitist cabal, the New York Post reports. I hate to tell you this, but that is probably drifting very, very close. Closer than the mainstream media is comfortable with, to saying the same thing that Kanye just said. Let's listen to the video, which we'll, again, probably listen to tomorrow, too.
I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party that's under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers who are driven by cowardly wokeness, who divide us by racializing every issue and stoking anti-white racism, who actively work to undermine our God-given freedoms that are enshrined in our Constitution, who are hostile to people of faith and spirituality, who demonize the police but protect criminals at the expense of law-abiding Americans, who believe in open borders, who weaponize the national security state to go after their political opponents, and above all, who are dragging us ever closer to nuclear war. Now, I believe in a government that's of the people, by the people, and for the people. Unfortunately, today's Democratic Party does not. Instead, it stands for a government that is of, by, and for the powerful elite. Now, I'm calling on my fellow common sense, independent-minded Democrats to join me in leaving the Democratic Party. If you can no longer stomach the direction that the so-called woke Democratic Party ideologues are taking our country, then I invite you to join me.
Wow, that is probably getting a lot closer to the Kanye tweet than, I'm willing to bet that there's going to be some MSM outlet, MSDNC, that's going to grab that and run with that. All right, next trend. Ryan Fournier says, Democrats got Bill Kristol and Liz Cheney. We got Tulsi Gabbard. I'll take that trade. Yeah, she is not as good as you might think, dude. Maybe I wouldn't go down that road if it was me. Somebody else says, the LP has been turned into a huge joke. Tulsi definitely should not go LP. She will be immediately set up for failure, and it's all because y'all didn't take this seriously. Arvold, our own Arvold, the people rejecting Tulsi for not being conservative enough, would have likely rejected Matthew for being a tax collector. Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick, for I came not to call the righteous, but sinners. Here's a poll. What effect do you think Tulsi calling out and abandoning the woke, nuclear, inviting Democrats will have on the midterms? I'm actually going to be completely honest. Not much. I don't think it's going to have any effect at all. The DNC already hates Tulsi Gabbard, and they've already told their people to hate her as well. Yeah. A rare moment of clarity from JoJo from Jers. Tulsi Gabbard said she's leaving the Democratic Party. Does anybody actually give a crap? No, because you've already kicked her out and said that she's not socialist enough for you, even though she's probably further to the left economically than most of you. Today is apparently National Coming Out Day. John, where are you? On this National Coming Out Day, here's to more of this in fiction and real life. So I guess there's a holiday. If there's something you want to tell us all, there's a holiday for that. I will not be coming out. I am coming out. I am super straight. I'm coming out as super straight. And for whatever reason, Elvira, Mistress of Darkness, who is like 75 years old, is also talking about coming out, which she did years ago. Portfolio Day, the second Tuesday in January, April, July, and October. I always like this one, because there's really cool stuff on here always. Portfolio Day, my name is Dominic, and I live the retro synth dream. We might hold on to that one. That actually looks kind of cool. Might go back and listen to that a little bit later. See what these little minute clips are. Okay, me and I mainly draw my original characters. I'm Ivan, and I enjoy drawing Filipino experiences. Stefan likes houses. There is some really cool stuff in here. I like the fact we do Twitter trending on Tuesday, because we actually get to see some of this cool stuff, and you know, it's always on a Tuesday, so we get to see it, and it's some of it's weird, but some of it's kind of cool too. I like this. Excuse me. All right, the fourth one, Blink 182. Blink 182 are getting back together for the kids. Tom DeLonge, Mark Hoppus, and Travis Barker are reuniting for their first tour together in nearly 10 years. Well, that'd be kind of cool. Are we getting new music, or is it going to be all the classics? We're coming, tour's coming, album's coming, Tom's coming. Tickets on sale Monday. New song Edging out on Friday. I don't know if this is going to be the song, a clip, or anything, or if we're going to get copyright pop from it, but let's listen.
If I'm being totally honest, I cannot stop thinking about them coming.
I've tried hundreds of different ways to make them come.
Every night, I pray for them to come.
My husband and I would love to watch them come.
If they come, I'm getting hammered.
We would do anything to make them come.
That's right, honey. Anything.
If they come, I'm gonna explode.
Could you imagine all three of them coming?
That'd be sick.
If they're gonna come, I better start stretching.
Wait until I tell my grandkids they're coming.
Oh, they're gonna come! Guys, they're gonna come! They're gonna come!
They're coming!
They're finally coming!
I ain't that cool, a little fucked in the head. They'll be hanging me quick when I'm back from the dead. Get the rope, get the rope, get the rope, get the rope.
Oh, that probably demonetized us on YouTube, but that was still an entertaining advertisement. Me getting excited about Blink 182 and the Sunny Day real estate tours. Nice. Me manifesting Tom coming back to 182 for the 4th time this calendar year. Millennials with lower back problems arriving at the Blink 182 reunion. That meme keeps on giving. That's awesome. I thought it was funny. And Mbappe? I don't know. This is soccer trending. Kylian Mbappe has asked to leave PSG in January as his relationship with the club is broken, reports Mario Cortegana. The rumors are back. Let's learn about soccer. Kylian Mbappe, not happy with the Paris Saint-Germain's current situation, is really tense. He wants to leave the club as soon as possible. Crap, it's quarter 2. Mbappe calling PSG's window a failure after choosing the manager, director of football, transfer targets, and forcing a €1 billion contract for himself. And this says, dudes be like, Subway sucks. MF, you made the sandwich. So I don't know really much about soccer, so I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. So those of you who are more Europhilic than I am can fill me in, obviously, but yes, apparently Mbappe is leaving Paris Saint-Germain. I don't know what impact this is going to have on the sport, I'm not going to lie. But that's some of the fun of doing Twitter trending, is sometimes I look at things that I don't know anything about. Usually it's K-pop. But with that, I think we're out of here. It was an interesting Twitter trending. And yes, it does appear that the audience didn't like the advertisement nearly as much as I did. I thought it was funny. Remember the Austin Powers montages about the penis-shaped rocket? Those were clever. Yeah. Oh, Ron found the Trovo again. Yeah, we started doing Trovo a bit because D-Live was having problems, and I know Midget B likes Mass Effect, so I gave him an alternative. Because, yeah, I'm not going to sign into Twitch, okay? Because... yeah, we're back on Trovo. We'll see how long it is before I get banned. What a day. It's 10 minutes to. I gotta get the hell out of here. Alright, well, what a productive day. We got a lot done. There was a lot to talk about, definitely. So we'll probably have more to talk about today, and even though we have leftover stuff, it's leftover stuff from yesterday, which means we got done with everything for today. All the new news that we did, all the new news that I put up is gone. So huzzah! We'll be back here tomorrow with more news, more headlines, more talk about Ukraine, most likely, more talk about the mudsling. I guarantee you we're going to get some more of that as we go here. We'll probably talk Tulsi because we watched the video, and now I do want to learn more about what's happening with that and what this does for the midterms. I don't think anything. I think it is just somebody who got frustrated with her situation and wants to go and do more, but we'll find out more about that. Definitely looking forward to seeing you guys here tomorrow for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. We will see you then. Until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.